All right, let's welcome in now retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. He's also a former congressman from Florida and the senior advisor for Patriot Academy. Colonel West, always great to talk to you.
Bianca, John, it's great to be with you. Thank you.
All right, so President Biden referring to MAGA Republicans as semi-fascists. This was him at a DNC fundraiser the other day. I'm going to quote him here right now. What we're seeing is the beginning of the death knell of the extreme MAGA philosophy. It's not just Trump. It's the entire philosophy that underpins the I'm going to say something here. It's like semi-fascism. First of all, how's my Biden impersonation? Probably not very good. But you know, we've seen this before. This is the whole Dark Brandon thing. Yeah. They're really embracing this. Yeah. And this is supposed to be the guy who was unifying us back during his inauguration. What happened?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You go back to Barack Obama talking about people clinging to their guns and their religion. Of course, the basket of deplorables from Hillary Clinton. And when you go and you remember Joe Biden's inauguration speech, which was supposed to be a speech about unity, it was a speech about conformity. And if you did not conform to his agenda, the progressive socialist leftist agenda, you were going to be denigrated, disparaged, and demeaned. And that's exactly what we have seen happen throughout his administration. And now for the president of the United States of America to say that people that disagree with high inflation or record gas prices or this new thing about, you know, paying off college loan debt, which we don't think is constitutional, he's going to call them semi-fascists. The only people that are fascists are the folks on the left side, because they're trying to suppress and they're trying to squash any freedom of speech and freedom of expression.
Speaking of the press, too, and we all know the country right now needs less divisive tones here, Lieutenant Colonel. Some of the media are out and actually defending Biden's semi-fascist remarks. Let's play a clip from NBC host Chuck Todd and the chief White House correspondent, Peter Alexander here.
Do you think someone said you should say fascism, and he said I'm going to say semi-fascism?
When I spoke to Age, this wasn't a teleprompter speech. This is what he's been thinking. They say he said it out loud. This was done not on camera, but it fires up Democrats. It juices up the base because they want to see him be more aggressive on that. But it also does, it does become problematic because, this is a guy who said he wanted to be a unifier.
Juices up the base. I mean, obviously, they have a different take on it, the mainstream media. But if this is Donald Trump talking about turning down the temperature, that gets no play.
No, you're absolutely right. And it juiced up the base so well that in Seminole County there in Florida, I believe, you had a GOP office that was attacked. It juices up their base so that you have pro-life centers that are firebombed and churches that are vandalized. That's exactly what they're looking for. And when you think about the history of progressivism, socialism, leftism, communism, Marxism, it's all about coercion, intimidation, threats, and ultimately violence. And that's what you see coming from the left, not from the constitutional conservatives who want to have a principled ideological discussion.
I got to ask you, too, about Charlie Crist, Colonel West. This is so bizarre. I imagine it's as weird for you to watch this candidacy, the Democrat, former Republican, running for governor now. But here he is talking about Joe Biden's comments. We should mention Crist is running against Ron DeSantis. But here's Charlie Crist.
What do you think about the president calling millions of Americans semi-fascist?
Listen, he's got to express and be honest about what he feels in his heart and his soul. And I think that's probably exactly what he did.
You know, what's so similar about Charlie Crist, and only you really, very few people can appreciate this like you can, Colonel West, given your experience with him. He will say and do anything to remain in office, to hold any, whether it's governor, congressman, trying to run for governor again, he will do and say anything.
No, you're absolutely right. And you and I remember when he was a Republican governor there, and Charlie Crist reminds me very much of the Roman god Janus, who had two faces. Charlie Crist blows that out of the water. I don't know how many faces the guy has. And he is the ultimate politician. He is going to do and say whatever is necessary for him to stay in political office, political power. And I think that the people there in Florida will reject that.
Yeah, I remember him signing a school choice bill or something, some piece of legislation, and then he goes and picks a union chief, a school union
For the
chief,
running mate
for his
this
running mate for
weekend.
governor. I'm still not convinced
Yeah.
he's really running for governor. This is like a kamikaze mission for Charlie.
Yeah, maybe.
Crist, we'll see.
Interesting, too, you heard him say soul there, too. I mean, they must have all just distributed some talking points here, the battle for the soul and all that. It's funny how it gets circulated. We want to ask you also about the FBI today, because
Yes.
obviously there's a huge story about the former official, a senior official, now former, because he was taken off the job, apparently resigned because of political bias in the Hunter Biden laptop probe. Now, according to the Washington Times, the agent, Timothy Thibault, forced to leave his post. Also, he's accused of dismissing unvaccinated agents that he thought were Trump supporters. I mean, if this is true, dirty to the core here. And this was on Friday when he gets walked out of the building. And you probably heard this the day before. Zuckerberg's out talking how the FBI went to them and said, Facebook, you know, this is disinformation on the laptop. So here we are, two huge stories involving the FBI in 2 days. We even have senators asking for more clarity as far as what did Zuckerberg get. We have Grassley writing a letter saying American people require clarity. What is the FBI doing? Is it election meddling here? What do you make of those two huge stories, Colonel West, according to like what we're hearing and what you believe may or may not have happened with the FBI brass?
Well, this is incredibly disconcerting because you would think that the nation's top law enforcement agency would be all about enforcing the law and the rule of law and abiding by it. But when you talk about, fascism, here you have someone, Timothy Thibault, who is a senior administrator in the Federal Bureau of Investigation, who is suppressing truth, who are suppressing news stories. And the FBI obviously aware of that. And you cannot tell me that Christopher Wray did not know. The guy's right there in the Washington office. But then on top of that, they are going after people that they believe are supporters of someone that they don't feel should be a presidential candidate or nominee or what have you. So if we cannot trust the Federal Bureau of Investigation, we're in deep you-know-what in the United States of America. And so this whole thing about the politicization of governmental agencies, FBI, CIA, DIA, DOD, NSA, this is real. IRS, this is very real, and American people have concerns about it.
Well, President Trump, among those who was outraged about this information,